Hello, Tommy. Glad to see you again. Happy 2019. And all the best for you and your dearest relatives. Is the audio okay? Because yeah, I've been playing a little bit too much with vMix 22 and I I screwed up my audio a little bit, so let me see. Let's keep all this stuff away. Okie-doo. Well, I'm going to talk mainly about vMix 22, and I'll try to show you all the new stuff that there is in vMix 22, because so far they've been mainly talking about Title Designer and the virtual PTZ, but there are a lot of other things. So I prepared some slides and I'll try to show you a few things. I'm not going to talk too much today about the Title Designer because it's probably going to be a total different show. And if there's time enough, I'm going to give my idea about the price point of vMix 22 and if it's worth it or not. But I'm going to keep it for the after show, so we can keep the main topic going on. And because if we start the discussion about the price point of vMix, it's probably going to be too long. I have some new stuff I bought. Your camera is focused on your mic. Okay, Tommy, thank you. Stream one. Okay. This should be better. I'll give a little bit more audio. Okay, so far it's going to be a one-on-one, Tommy. So no problem. Well, a little bit more than 1 minute to go. And then we start the show with... I'm going to start with something new. Hopefully it works. Well, today is mainly going to be a test bed for me. Plenty of new stuff I've put in the show. Yeah, and I didn't have too much time to test all these things. That's a good one, Tommy. Yeah. Well, with all this eating and drinking, an extra 5 kilos, so I'm looking after my food and drinks for the moment. So, hey Martin, nice to see you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're going to start the show with, I hope that it's worked because it's a little bit crazy, but yeah, we'll see. Unfortunately, well, lucky for me now, it's 2 friends that are watching, so I'm not too nervous. Okay, let's get ready. And hopefully this is going to work. If you can have a look at the volume, because it can be a little bit too loud maybe. Let's start the show, shall we? Hello, and welcome in 2019. I see here that Martin Steed is here, Tommy Willis is here. Happy New Year, guys, and all the best for you. Yeah, I just made a very small intro. I'm still tweaking it. It's kind of a test bed. It's made completely in Camtasia. I'm playing a lot with Camtasia these days to do my pre-recorded stuff. And what I did was, it's just an intro movie with 4 triggers. So it's muting my mic when it starts, and then when it's completed, it's doing the recording automatically. And then I'm still working on a lower third. So that's what I changed a little bit. Before we go to the main topic of the show, new week, it's almost a few new weeks. New toy, and this is the Decimator MD-HX. Very nice toy, very good toy. And it has some SDI inputs and outputs, and it has some HDMI inputs and outputs. And why it's so interesting for is we bought 2 of them for at work, and I can play with one of them. Often when people come with a certain laptop and they want, everything is now 4K and the scaling is not right, the first thing you can see is which input is coming in, because I'm going to talk in a few weeks about that. My camera, for instance, it's normally 1080p 25, but when I connect it to my Decimator, it shows me 1080 50. I discussed it already with Martin. I'm still investigating all this stuff, but this is not only kind of a cross converter, but it's also a very good thing to do some troubleshooting. So more about that in a later show. And the main topic of today is vMix 22. And in fact, on both my PCs, my smaller one and my production PC, I've installed vMix 22. Some call it dangerous. I wouldn't do it in a professional environment. I know that vMix, when they launch something, it's more or less stable. But yeah, I've been playing a lot the latest weeks. A few weeks I played a lot with the title designer, but today I prepared a PowerPoint. It's a long PowerPoint, but it's mainly to give you an idea what's new. And I'm going to switch between the PowerPoint and show you what's new. So let's start with it. So, restart. So in vMix 22.34, that was the first version that was being launched, there were, of course, a lot of new features and changes. So the first one, and for most people probably the biggest one, is the title designer. I'm not going to talk too much about the title designer today. I'm just going to show you one thing I did, because in one of the following weeks I'm going to dedicate a complete show on the title designer. But as you can read, it's fully GPU, so the graphics processor accelerator. There are 4-way tickles, stickers, and they are available. This is important. These stickers are available in all vMix editions. So not only in the 2 most expensive one, but everyone is going to get the new stickers, and they are really good. Maybe if there is enough time, this is something I can show you quickly. There are over 7 animated title templates included with all vMix editions, but, and the next point is important, if you want to change the animation or if you want to create your own animations, you need vMix 4K or Pro, so the 2 most expensive versions. And in the post-show, I'm going to discuss if it's a good idea or not. If we go further, here you can see that Instagram support has been removed due to regulations of Instagram. It's becoming more and more difficult to use vMix Social with Facebook. For the moment, it's only working on a public page where you, the administrator, are. And they added Twitch chat and YouTube chat. Let me maybe quickly show you this. If I go to stream, nope. I need to go here to this here. This is what I want to show you. Okay. So let me put, and I need to work on my X keys a little bit better. So let me show you this. So here you see the Twitter is still there, Facebook is still there, but here was Instagram, so that's gone, and now it's Twitch. To be honest, I don't use Twitch. And then there are a few more options here, but for the rest, it has stayed exactly the same, vMix Social. Okay. Let's go to the next slide. So, it's not finished, vMix, oh, I hate it. I need to find a way to stop this. There is a new version of NDI, but I downloaded the complete version of the latest NDI tool, so 3.8. What's also new is create snapshot added to the input cog icon menu to create a high resolution snapshot of any input. If you've seen the stuff that Alan Zenreich did, he was making use of the snapshot. So let me show you that quickly. So if I go again to this thing. So if you go here, for instance, to the first input, you see here the cog icon. If I click with my right mouse on the cog icon, you see here that there is now an option, create snapshot. So if I click on create snapshot, then you can tell vMix where to save it, and there are also some shortcuts for it, and that was what Alan was using. So to make things a little bit easier, I'm just going to read my PowerPoint slide here. So there are also live, pause, camera, NDI, and desktop capture inputs can be paused by clicking the pause icon under the input. So if I add a camera, for instance, so I'm going to add my Logitech C920. I hope that it's still connected. So I've now added, you see here that I've added a camera input, and you see here that there is a pause button. So I'm doing this here. Let's say, oh, you see that there is a small problem. You can click here on the pause button, and now I'm waving, but this input has been paused. So if I click again now on play, then you see that the input is working again. A second big one besides the how do you call it? The title designer is virtual PTZ. I'm not going to go too deep into it because for me it's not on my PC it was not really stable, and I'm probably not going to use it. But more about virtual PTZ in a later show. Let's go. Okay. What's new again is also you can see that in a slideshow the property windows can be resized, rearranged. Yeah, small things. There is a spell checker built in title editor. You see there's a lot of small stuff here. Here, additional multi-view output layout options. So title location and preview output headings customization. Let me show you this quickly. So you see here that this is the multi-view, and you see here on top preview, and on the right hand side you see output, and then your inputs. If you go, and now I have to switch constantly between some inputs. So if you go here to settings, outputs NDI, I'll just change everything and then I show it to you, so I don't have to change 3 or 4 times. Here you have the option custom layout, and in custom layout this is new now. So you see here title location, top or bottom. So this is here, this is top. I think this is normal, but you can choose here to put the names on the bottom. Personally, I think it generates a lot of confusion because it's too close to the other inputs. But you can change it here. So I'm for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to put them here on bottom. And then by default, here you see normally preview, and you see here on the multi-view output, but you can also choose to put the names of the inputs. So I changed everything now completely. So the names bottom and preview output headings input. If I click OK, and I show you the multi-view again, then you see here that now the name of the preview and the output is under the 2 big ones instead of above. And personally, I don't like it because it's for me it's confusing. Is it now this input or whatever? I prefer the standard way, but apparently some people asked for it and they got it. Okay. So what's also new? Streaming to Vimeo. You see here some new shortcuts. Snapshot input. This is what Alan was using to set your ticker speed. Title, begin, animation, live play, pause. Only 4 shortcuts so far. So I honestly hope that they add some more shortcuts and activators. Then there is some support for joysticks and some performance improvements. And the last slide of the first beta version of vMix 22. An interesting one is you see that the X-Keys AG15 GPIO support is added. This is the toy that Dan Slider was using to put on his live light behind him. He did also a small movie with a ventilator, and now it's completely integrated with vMix. Another thing you see is that there is a new GPU memory percent indicator in the status bar. So let me quickly show you that. So here on the bottom, you see here now GPU mem 10%. So you see how much percentage the GPU is using. So this was when vMix 22 was launched. This was the first version, in fact. And I see here that Sportsnet USA is also here. Okay, nice to have you. And then the latest 2 or 3 weeks, vMix came out with a lot of improvements. I'm going to upload this PowerPoint so you can have a look instead of going to the forum and looking up everything yourself, that you can have a rest and look up everything yourself. So on the 20th of December, vMix 22.35 came out with these additions. Something for data sources. I'm not going to tell you too much about it because it's rather complicated. You see here it's more or less fixes for the title designer. A lot of people told that, yeah, I found a bug, and they fixed the bug. So mainly bug fixes, sorry, for the title designer. And someone said that there was that 4K Logitech Rally camera was not working, and they added, you see here, in a week time they added support for the Logitech Rally. Still, and you see here the 20th of December, less than 2 weeks later, vMix 22.37 came out. And the first one, I think this is a nice one. This is a thing I'm going to show you. As they added the ability to copy input settings from another input. So let me show you it this way. Let me put a picture in picture. Oh, no, I can use my picture in picture. So I created here. I'm a little hot, I think. Just an input with color bars, and you see here I created a second input with the standard color. On the color bars I added one trigger. So if I click here now on the cogwheel of my second input color, you see here on the bottom left, copy from. If I click on copy from, you first need to choose the source where you want to copy from. In my case, input number 1, the color bars. And then you see here that you can check, okay, I want to copy the triggers, the multi-view, or a color adjust. Let me maybe quickly, so we have 2 different options. if I'm going to click on the cogwheel of my color bars, and I'm going to desaturate it. And now I want to copy the desaturation and the trigger to my second input. So I click again on the cogwheel of my second input, and I click here, copy from. And now you see here, if I choose color bars, and I choose triggers, color adjust, key and correction, and I click OK, you're going to see that the green is normally going to be black. So it has become gray. And if I click on the cogwheel again and on triggers, you see here that it has copied the trigger from input 1 to input 2. That can be very interesting if you are a few inputs where you want the same triggers. For instance, I always want the bug in the right hand top right hand corner. You can do it with an overlay, of course, but now you can quickly copy the trigger. I'm still playing a little bit with it, but it gives some nice options. Okay, we're almost there. What's also being added is they added a clock drop-down in the built-in title editor. Again, I'm not going to show it today, the title editor, but it was in the title editor we're using now. A lot of people were asking in the forums, how do I create a clock in European version or in US version, countdown, count up. They have been made it a lot easier now. They added customizable zoom options. Again, this was something that was being used in the forums for the virtual PTZ. And a lot of fixes, which I'm not going to bother you with. They fixed some performance issues. There was a potential memory leak in the title, and there was a problem with Facebook posts that the photo was never shown. So they made a fix for that. Unfortunately, I did a test with Facebook with my page and tried the social, and it wasn't working. But it's probably something to do with my Facebook stuff. Okay, this was it for vMix 22.35, and now we are on the 4th of January, so a few days ago. They launched, and this is for the moment the latest version. They launched again some bug fixes. So they added cog buttons on the preview and output to give you a quicker way to go to the input settings. So let me show you that on the preview and output. And now I have to, because I haven't tested that one. Let me see, preview and output, okay. So you see here the preview and the output, and normally you had the color correction and the overlay here, and now you have a cog icon. When I click here on the cog icon of my preview, I go immediately to the settings of my preview, and I can do some quick changes instead of going to the bottom. The same here for my output. So if I click on the cog wheel of my color bars here, my output, then you can see that, of course, I cannot change live some stuff, but I can change what do I want to send to the output. Output 1, 2, 3, or 4. They added the ability to solo bus A or bus B through the headphones output. This is something I haven't tested. I'm not, to be honest, I'm not that good with all these audio stuff with the buses. It's still confusing for me. This is something I still have to dive deeper into. Again, they fixed some okay. Just to give you an idea, they fixed the right-click presets menu. What was happening, like now in the title designer, when you, let's say you added manually some inputs for names for a lower third, you could right-click on the title, and then you could choose, for instance, okay, I want Tommy or I want Martin. And that wasn't working in the new title designer, so they fixed that. Some more fixes for the title editor, and now the last page. Again, some fixes for the joystick pressure, some masking, and for the multi-view layout settings. So, this is where we are today. So you see they are constantly making some small fixes. To be honest, and I don't know anything where it's going to lead us. Are they going to add some more stuff in the title designer? Are they going to add some more shortcuts, triggers? To be honest, I don't know. And I see here that we almost reached the half-hour mark, so that's good, because I'm going to try to keep the main part under 30 minutes, and then we just go to the after show where we can discuss a little bit more about what I talked about in the main show. But before we go to the main show, I'll have a quick look in the chat to see if there are any questions. Tommy is saying, and I'm not going to put the overlay, the social media overlay, I'm just going to read it. Tommy likes the GPU percent that's being added. Martin he loves the input settings copying. Yes, Martin. And I think for me personally, the triggers, it has to be seen what's happening when you, because I didn't test it that far, when you're copying a trigger that's related, connected to another input, what's going to happen with the numbers or so. But I think it's a small thing, because most people are only talking about the title designer, and for a lot of other people, those small changes can maybe, more important. But more about that in the after show. Martin is saying it would be nice if the copy function worked on position as well. Yep. Yeah, that's correct. And we're going to talk about it in after show, but I think it's like what you're saying, Martin, for a lot of people, and I think these are small things, but these are very important things for people who are doing on a regular basis a live stream in a particular situation, like you or like Tommy. I'm still just playing at home, and yeah, it's all good, but if I can choose, because at any IBC, I said, oh, I want an easier title designer, because the blend thing was way too complex for me. And they didn't listen to me, to be honest. They gave a new title designer. I've mixed feelings now about the title designer. But I would prefer, for instance, a lot more shortcuts for data sources. And I think I already a few weeks ago gave an example. Go to the first row or go to the last row. some more triggers that I can see what's when I change an input that I have kind of a feedback. But yeah, we are with I don't know how many customers, maybe probably a few thousand or 10,000, I don't know. And we all have our own demands. Fortunately, the vMix guy are very responsive and they are listening to the customer base. And I hope that they're going to add more and more of these small things. Now, before we going to the after show, and a few amongst you have seen it in one of the forums. So I played 2 or 3 days during my holidays, rather intensively with the title designer. The problem is I'm not a graphic designer, and what do you do then? You watch a lot. I watch a lot of sports television, and we have cyclocross here, which is well, we are the best again, together with the Dutch. And I really like the graphics they're making. So it's a graphics from our national television. I couldn't mimic everything because the title designer doesn't give me all the options. But let me just show you what I made with title designer together with Adobe Photoshop. And I hope it's going to work. So it's coming up. 1, 2, 3. It stays a few seconds. You can decide how many seconds. And then it goes away like this. So let me do it again. So these come up first. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layers. And if I click it again, away, layer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are going away. So this is one of the titles, the possibilities, the options you can do. We're going to post-show immediately. The way I did it was I created most layers in Photoshop and I imported them in vMix Title Designer, and I did just the animation part in the Title Designer. That makes a lot more sense for me, probably also because I know Photoshop a lot better than the Title Designer. But I've seen some other people doing some other nice things. If you go to the vMix forums, to Title Designer, you can see a few examples. So for those who doesn't want to stay in post-show to hear my opinion and also your opinion about the vMix 22, thank you very much for staying here again and being part of the first show of 2019. I hope to see you back or next week or in 2 weeks. It's still on shore. But if you want to follow, have a look at my website and my Facebook. Hopefully next time I have some lower thirds with all this information, and I announce there when my next show is on. So thanks you, and let's go to the post show for my opinion about vMix 22. Okay, thank you guys. Our Canadian friend is here. Happy 2019, Mike. Long time no see. And Kenny is here for, I see here. Well, oh yes, I miss Kenny. Hi Kenny, nice to see you. Yes, because I didn't pay attention constantly to the chat. So if, what I did, Mike and Kenny, was I showed all the new things in vMix 22, not everything. The title designer is for something later. And what I'm now going to do is going to give my honest opinion. about vMix 22 and if it's worth it, because there has been a lot of discussion. To be complete clear, and I'm going to have a look, guys, at the chat so I can see if there is a nice comment that I can bring up. To be complete clear, I'm going to give my honest opinion. It's really what I think. Nothing has asked me to say something positive or negative. But vMix 22, I think there are a few problems, and personally, I think the upgrade of $60, that the majority of the vMix users don't have a problem to pay this $60, because in, I think, the last 5 years, they never charged. They could charge every year, they didn't do it, and for some people maybe that caused the problem that now suddenly they charge the $60. If I see what they've been added, I don't have a problem paying the $60. I did it for one laptop. My other laptop, I still got a free upgrade. So for me personally, the $60, even if they do it every year, and they give me something, well, even a little bit something new, I don't have a problem to pay it with the $60. What caused some discussion was maybe the timing, because now some people have the impression that they are paying the $60 for a beta version. And in fact, it's true. And I discussed it a little bit with Martin already. And said maybe if they said, okay, we launch now the beta version, and it's free until NEB. When they then launch the official version, I think there would have been a lot less discussion, because now some people saying, yeah, we're paying $60 for a beta version, which in fact is true. And I see here that Kenny is saying that he also don't have a problem with the $60. And Kenny, this is exactly what I told Martin. Martin told me, should I upgrade? And I told him, look, because so far it has been very stable for me, but Kenny is saying that he doesn't want to work over beta for reproductions, and it's exactly what I should do. Even how stable it is in my eyes, I would never use it for an official production. A second point, and this is a difficult one, is that the vMix title designer, because there were already a lot of rumors that there was coming a new title designer, and I think there was kind of a miscommunication, because a lot of people were thinking, okay, we are going to get a new title designer, which is partly true. So people with the two least expensive versions, they're going to get some new titles. vMix is talking about 70 different titles, but that's not really the case. It's a few titles with some other colors, and you can use them. You can add some text, but you cannot change the animation. If you want to create your own titles or your own animations, then you need the two most expensive versions. And like, for instance, I have on my second laptop, my smaller one, I have the $350 version, because I think that's price quality. I think it's the most interesting version. But a lot of people have this version, so they paid $350. And now if they want to use the title designer, in fact, what they need to do is pay $350 extra. And then is the big discussion, okay, besides all the other small changes, do I want to pay $350 for the title designer? And let's take also the virtual PTZ or PTZ, depends where you live. I don't think I'm going to use the virtual PTZ. So if they ask me now, after a few days playing with vMix Title Designer, would you pay $350 to do the upgrade? Then my answer is no. I wouldn't pay $350 for the title designer. And I have mixed feelings about it. I think $350 is a lot of money for some people. As you know, my most expensive version, I won it. If I would have only this version of $350, I don't think that I would do the upgrade to the most expensive, one of the most expensive versions, the 700. So I wouldn't pay $350. And why wouldn't I do it? And vMix made it very clear that they don't want to compete with the title designer with all the expensive, well, the other ones. I looked up Blue Titler, and during the holidays there was a version of Blue Titler Live that was not that much more expensive than $350. And in the Blue Titler Designer Live, you have a lot more options. You can bring it in via NDI and all the other stuff. It's not fault tolerant titler designer. Some people are saying, yeah, there are still some quirks, but you can really create amazing titles. And then you have, of course, you have a separate program that's only made for titles. Again, it's a difficult one. Maybe something that's also playing a role for me is at work I have the Adobe Creative Cloud, the full Adobe Creative Cloud, and that gives me also the right to install it on, I think, a few other PCs. So on my PC I have the full Adobe Creative Cloud, and I can create my graphics in Adobe Photoshop, and I can do a lot more and quicker in Photoshop than in Title Designer. Okay, yeah, you're going to say, yeah, but what if I need to pay for Photoshop? That's also an extra cost. But of course, I'm not using Photoshop alone for my titles. I'm also using it for making my all my icons and stuff like that. And people who have then the Creative Cloud, of course, they have, and I forgot the name. Martin, you can probably help me to do all the animations. Not Premiere, but there is a program in it's rather complex programs to do a lot of animations in the Adobe suite. But I knew there were a lot of people, and some people were also, and it's what I don't like, is the way people were almost shouting against each other. Because what I'm seeing is that, well, when I'm doing some photography courses, you had the Nikon fanboys and the Canon fanboys, and now you have the Sony fanboys. But I see that also a lot of people, and we all know that vMix is a very, very great program. But if someone gives a not so positive opinion about vMix, immediately a lot of people are saying bad words to that guy and go to Wirecast if you don't like vMix. I think that everyone is entitled to his or her opinion, and if it's an honest opinion, and you can say why you think it's not good for you, then I think it only can help, and also maybe for vMix to think about maybe another price point or whatever. But now I think there are too many people that are going, yeah, we see all these fancy titles, but we can't make our own. And that's, yeah, Martin, thank you. And Mike, After Effects, you can do really crazy stuff in After Effects, and even with the NDI plugin, show the titles immediately in vMix. So that's my view on the price point. Again, to conclude, and don't mind the $60. Maybe there was a problem with the timing. The extra $350 for the title designer after a few days of playing, no, maybe I change my opinion when I'm working more and more with it. So this is what I think about vMix 22 and the upgrade, and most importantly the upgrade, not the update. The update is from going from vMix 21 to 22, the $60, but the upgrade, going to a higher version. I'm not going to do it on my smaller laptop, to be honest, because I have on one laptop all my possibilities, and my second one is more or less to play with. Kenny is Kenny's. Let me put up some good, valid points, and oops, this is not the one. Sorry guys, wrong button. Oh, come on. But Kenny is saying is Adobe Animate. That's a new one for me, Kenny. I don't know Adobe Animate, to be honest. Okay, Mike. He's saying, I would never, like Kenny, use beta software in a live streaming event, of course. Never, ever. Even now, and I've tested it rather intensively, I wouldn't use it in a production environment. That's, of course, a valid point. Tommy is, and this is an interesting, but Tommy is saying, if you have the free version of vMix, is there a charge for the going from 21 to 22? The free version, Tommy, you mean the one you can just download it? Because let me quickly put up the vMix site to see. Oh yeah, the free version. Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do with it, to be honest. This is the non-HD the non-HD version together with the SD. I don't know how what you guys are thinking about it, but even the standard def, the two versions, the basic and the standard def, the $150. Do you think there are a lot of people are using these versions? Tommy, maybe you, I don't know. Here Martin, what Martin is saying, that what is great that we have choices. You can make a system that suits you and you can combine technologies. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Martin. And we talked about it already a few times, but I think the administration point would be too much for them or the resellers like Tom. What could be maybe my idea was, okay, you have the most expensive version is $350, let's say, and what was extra in vMix 21 or 20, vMix call was huge. Let's say you pay the most expensive version is $350. And if you say, okay, I need 4 vMix call, okay, that's $200. Oh, okay, I want a title designer, okay, that's $100 or $150, how much they want to charge for it. Because like now, I have the feeling that I'm paying for something, and like, just to give you an example, the PTZ options, for other people that's going to be huge. I probably not going to use it, and I have the impression now if I want to do the update, I'm also paying for all the work, because there's a lot of work they have been doing, then I'm also paying for an option that I'm never going to use, or almost never. But I'm more than happy to pay maybe for an extra NDI input or some more outputs or whatever. But I think it's easy to say what I want, but probably not so easy to implement. Mike is saying that he played with the SD3 version and he was able to upgrade. Okay, thanks. That's an interesting one. So yeah, you see, you can play with the standard version and see if, okay, is it worth it? Is it not worth it? Yeah, what Martin is saying is of course true, and this is why I like also the chat and the interaction we have now. That it brings like-minded people together, and we always can learn. And that I'm so happy. Not guys that I'm not happy that like Tommy and Martin, they are every week here, but that Kenny and Mike also passed by, because you guys already give some very interesting input. So thanks for that. What Kenny is asking is, oops, I clicked the wrong one. Sorry. What were the general thoughts of the public when you worked the vMix booth several months ago? A little bit mixed, I think, Kenny. Well, it's not only for me, it's probably always there were some people who are envious that I worked for there, and but I have to say the majority, and then maybe I speak for 90 or 95% of the people who visited our booth, they were really happy just to see, to put a face on someone they maybe just know from, because not everyone is watching my show or was watching SOLS. They just came by to say hello. Oh, you are Rudy. Oh, thank you. And because they could speak French or Dutch or a little bit German. So that was nice. And maybe also because if they were talking with Tim, of course, because Tim knows everything about vMix, I think I was often giving a rather, how do I say it, lower perspective on what I'm doing with vMix. And what was also interesting was the moment they knew that my specialization was data sources, I got a lot of questions about data sources. But yeah, it was a really nice experience, and I learned a lot. Maybe more interesting for me, Kenny, was that I learned a lot from the visitors, because not everyone is on the vMix forum because they don't feel comfortable or whatever, and it's not only for me, it was mainly for vMix, but they gave us so incredible, interesting feedback. People from radio stations, from TV stations, from local stations. It seems that everyone is vMix using in kind of a special way. I said, are you using vMix for that? Yeah, and it's working great, but it would be very nice if we could do that. And like also Tim and I'm thinking about, well, from a live streamer standpoint, but radio guy his way of thinking is completely different, and that the feedback you get from the visitors, I think it's invaluable for a company. It's nice. There are other guys that come to say hello. They bring some sweets. That's not, of course, that's really nice. But for me, if I would be a growing company or even a big company, the feedback we get from the customers, it's invaluable. You take it with you, and then with that feedback, you start working on a better product. Kenny is asking, were some of the new coming features tried out there at the show? Well, Kenny, it was a rather funny one, because I think it was it a lot. I don't remember if it was on SOLS or on my last show before going to IBC. When I think it was on my show, when I asked everyone if there's one thing you want to add to vMix 21, what is it? And I said a title designer. And the evening before the first day, Martin showed us for the first time, so the German guy, Martin K, and myself, for the first time, what was new. And if I remember well, he showed the title designer in a very premature stadium. He also, and this is something I didn't talked about today, because Martin Steed was saying today to me, oh, this can be huge for some people. So he created his own AVI codec, because he was still working on that codec during the show. So when creating the graphic thing and all, he said, yeah, I created my own graphics engine, but also my own codec, because he saw that the recordings, the AVI, the file size was way too big. So he created his own AVI codec, vMix AVI. I did a test yesterday, and just a non-scientific test from 1 minute, and it was 50. The vMix AVI codec was 50% smaller. So that was something he showed at the booth. But he told us, look, what you can show at the booth is the title designer. But at that moment, we didn't play 5 minutes with it. So we said, look, it's here. This is how it looks. But at that moment, I couldn't create the title myself. I don't remember well, but I don't think he spoke at that time already about the virtual PTZ, but I can be wrong. But I don't remember that. It was mainly about the title designer and the small fewer things. I hope, Kenny, that answers your question. And you saw during the show when people saw the title, because yeah, for a lot of people this was a big thing. Wow, a title designer, but yeah, it was still I think in alpha, so we couldn't show all the possibilities. Like I think the Photoshop imported feature wasn't there, and it was still premature, but it was already promising. And they of course they prepared a few titles, and they were great. Mike is saying, and this is an interesting one, that vMix making their own codec does officially scare me. Yes, Mike, could be interesting, because it's what I've seen so far, Mike, and again, I'm not, I just played briefly with it. The interesting was that I could open it in Adobe Premiere without any problem. So there on the forum, Martin explained in scientific terms what the new codec is all about and what's new. It's based on the AVI codec, but he did some trickery with it. But when I clicked on the recording in my file, in my Finder, then he said that I couldn't open it because I probably need to install something extra. But I think that, yeah, Mike, you have a valid point that if they are going, I don't think they are going to, they're not saying, okay, you can only use the vMix AVI. They're not going to close it. But I think what Martin is doing is optimizing a few things. It was mainly for the multicorder and stuff like that. And for me, and I think I forgot to mention it on today's show, a big one is also if you use a lot vMix call, you have now the possibility to record it with a multicorder. So if you bring in 2 guests and you want to record them individually, you can do it now with a multicorder, and then afterwards going to Audition and do some post-processing and maybe send the post-processing to someone else. And that's also an interesting one. And I think they talked about it also already at IBC, but I'm not sure. Martin Steed is asking if VLC would play it, and I don't have a recording guide, but I'll do the test and I'll let you, I'm taking notes, and I'll let you know if VLC can play the vMix AVI. vMix AVI. Okay. Let me see here if there are other comments. Portsnet USA saying I have the 4K version in 3 systems using basic HD. I don't mind the $60, but I'm thinking of getting new BlueFX titler and learn it. Valid point. And I think Sportsnet USA, I think they have a special version, sorry, for doing sports, and you can also buy the expensive version. I think it was $750 during the holidays. Then you have the social, the sports, and the regular. And then, yeah, like for when you're doing a lot of sports, probably I think Jim Jacobs is using it for doing all his sports events. But probably when I would be doing sports professionally, I would also buy the. But again, they're giving you the option to say, okay, I want to pay the $350 extra. So I have a title designer, and as you see in my example, yeah, you can do some rather nice things, maybe quickly for Mike and Kenny, because I don't know if you've seen it. So this is the one I made, and I just let's show you this. So this is the one I made in Photoshop, and then did the animation in Title Designer. So there are some possibilities, and you're going to see someone who's going to delve very deep in the Title Designer is going to make some crazy stuff, because an interesting one is there are some triggers, some added triggers on, I think it's called on data change in. So if you use data sources, and let's say you have the score, and if the score changes, maybe you want not just that it changes, you can make a fade or another animation. So you can trigger something when there is a change in the input field of the data sources. That gives you yeah, probably you can do it also with Title Designer, but you see there are a few maybe smaller things, but only when playing with vMix 22 I I even found some things that are already in 21, but that I never used. So that tells also something that we, yeah, like me, I'm maybe using, I don't know, 20-30% of vMix. There's a lot that I'm not using. I didn't play with the instant replay, for instance, which is huge. That's already, for people who are doing sports, is worth the price of the expensive versions. Mike is asking, did your CPU... Mike, are you asking this when I did it now or when I was creating the titles? Mike, yes, these are 6 layers. You could do it exactly in... because maybe you were going to say this is a really, well, a stupid idea. But how I played with it is I have snagged it to do some screen grabs. To learn it, what I did was I created from some other layers. I did with Snagit a screen grab. I imported these PNG files in the title designer and I animated that. And I tried to mimic all these professional animations. Mike is saying when you use the title in vMix. Okay, Mike, let's do the test. I'm going to try something out, guys. Can I? Oh, these are now, these are not working. Can I? I'm trying to make my screen bigger. It's not working for the moment. So I'm going to put this one off. Mike, I'm going to try to put the my title up again, and I have a look. For the moment, my GPU is at, let's say, 10%, and my CPU between 10 and 15. So I'm going to put up the title now. I don't see a change on my GPU, neither on my CPU. So it's still around 10%, as you probably can see also. I think Martin, if I'm correct, because he created his own graphics engine, and he said it's not taking any CPU, I think. Kenny's saying clever, but I don't know. Was that about my screen grabs from the titles, Kenny? Martin, I'm missing something. Sound like something you would try, Martin. Yes, Mike. Maybe you're going to say, "Oh, thanks, Martin. Thanks for passing by. Talk to you soon." The reason, Mike, I did it in 6 layers, and let me show it to you again, is yeah, then you can animate every layer individually. So and I can't stop it. So this is layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, and then 4, 5, 6. So because this one, normally this one are, again, in the official version, these are 3 separate layers. But I made it one title. These are just screen grabs. No, I made it in Photoshop, I think. Yeah, this is one layer in Photoshop. This is a screen grab, and I made it a little bit better in Photoshop. And then this is these 3. So the position, 1, 2, 3. The names were dynamically. They came out of Excel. So I played with it. And the names of the country and the flags can also be dynamic. So what I would do if they would ask me to create this one is I would make everything but the names, country and flags. And you can put these in Excel or Google Sheets and bring them in dynamically. But this I haven't played intensively with the integration, title designer, and data sources. It was working, but the interaction, I still have to play with it. And probably next week is going to be, I'm not sure, but in the coming weeks, I'm going to give you an example what's possible with a title designer in combination with probably Photoshop. Okay, guys, so we talked 40 minutes in after show, but I got some really nice and good feedback from you. Thank you, everyone. Martin is gone already, but thanks, Martin, for stopping by. Sportsnet USA for stopping by. Kenny and Mike Latta, great to see you again, guys. And I hope to see you back in one of the coming weeks. Thank you and bye-bye.